The Arena of Judgment. The Arena of Judgment stood at the heart of the Galactic Council space station. It was a massive place, surrounded by energy shields and glowing walls. Thousands of alien species gathered in the seats above, watching the battles below with great interest. This was not just a fight for honor. This was how dominance was proven in the galaxy. Only the strongest species were respected. The weak were forgotten. Jalira stood in the center of the arena, tall and proud. Her armor was made from black crystal, pulsing with violet energy. She was a champion of the Zeltrax Dominion, undefeated, feared and respected. She had beaten warriors from 10 planets, crushed monsters from deep space. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. Her record spoke for her. When the announcer said the name of her next opponent, she frowned. Captain Reeve, representing Earth. A few aliens in the crowd laughed, some even booed. Earth was new to the Galactic Council, unknown and seen as primitive. No one expected much from humans. Then he walked in. Captain Reeve wore no heavy armor, no glowing shield, just a simple, dark blue suit, light and plain. In his right hand, he held something strange, a metal stick. No energy pulses, no glowing edges. No weapons detected. Jalira laughed, for the first time in many years. "This is your champion?" she said loudly, so the whole arena could hear. "You brought me a human child with a stick." The crowd laughed with her. Reeve said nothing, his face calm, his eyes focused. The signal to begin echoed through the arena. Jalira raised her arm and activated her shield, glowing like a star. She charged with lightning speed. Her fist aimed straight at Reeve's chest. He didn't move, not until the last moment. Then, like a whisper, he stepped aside and raised the stick. There was a flash, not of light, but of space itself bending. The sound it made was like a hum, deep and ancient. Jalira stumbled back, her shield flickering. She looked at the stick again, no longer just metal, it was changing. Glowing, reacting to Reeve's grip. The crowd went silent. "What trick is this?" she hissed. Reeve looked her in the eye and finally spoke. "You laughed too early." She roared and attacked again, spinning with her plasma blade. Reeve blocked it. With that same stick, the blade bounced off as if it had hit solid stone. No, not stone. Something stronger, something unknown. Jalira's mind raced. Her suit read the material of the weapon. It couldn't identify it. Unknown alloy, unknown energy signature. She felt something she hadn't felt in years. Doubt. Reeve stepped forward now, slow and steady, each movement precise. Controlled. The stick in his hand moved like it was alive. It flowed, shifted, became a shield, then a sword, then a whip, but always returned to its original form. The fight was no longer a show. It was a lesson. Reeve wasn't just blocking. He was studying her, watching how she moved, how she reacted. Every second he learned more. Every move became harder to dodge. Jalira growled, firing a gravity pulse to crush him. Reeve flipped over it, using her own energy against her. Then with one clean motion, he struck her shield. It shattered like glass. The arena gasped. Jalira fell to one knee, shocked, confused, angry. This wasn't possible. No one had broken her shield, ever. Reeve stood over her now, not smiling, not mocking, just standing, calm, silent, strong. "This isn't a toy," he said softly, holding the stick in front of her. "This is what happens when you underestimate humanity." And with that, he walked away, leaving behind a silence that screamed louder than any cheer. The announcer couldn't speak. The audience didn't know whether to clap or hide. For the first time, the galaxy saw Earth not as weak, but as terrifying, and they all began to wonder, if this was just one human, what were the rest of them like? Asterisk, the weapon that shouldn't exist. Silence filled the arena of judgment. Jalira was still on one knee, her armor cracked, her pride shattered. She watched Captain Reeve walk away slowly, that strange weapon still in his hand. No celebration, no smile, just silence, like a storm that had passed, but warned of another coming. In the high seats of the Galactic Council, whispers began. Leaders from 100 worlds leaned forward, asking the same question. What was that weapon? Why couldn't our sensors detect it? How did a primitive human defeat Jalira, the unbeaten blade? Far above, behind reinforced walls of glass, the Council's secret watchers replayed the footage, frame by frame, angle by angle, trying to understand what had just happened. And still, the weapon remained a mystery. Back on Earth, the truth was already known years ago, hidden deep beneath the surface of Mars. Humanity found something ancient, a piece of alien tech buried in ice, older than any known race. It was broken, incomplete, but powerful beyond imagination. The scientists who found it never told the public. They called it Project HAND, Human Adaptive Nano Device. No one understood how it worked at first. It responded to thought, to instinct, to survival. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a living machine. It couldn't be used by AI or controlled by computer. It bonded with the human mind, learned from emotion, evolved through stress. After years of testing, only one person could control it fully. Captain Reeve. He wasn't the strongest or the fastest, but he was calm under pressure. Smart and sharp, his heart rate didn't spike in danger. His thoughts stayed focused even in fear. HAND chose him, not the other way around. Back in the arena, Jalira was helped to her feet. She pushed away the med drones, anger burning in her veins. That was not a human weapon, she said aloud. That was sorcery. But deep down, she knew the truth. That metal stick, the one she laughed at, had been faster than her blade, stronger than her shield, smarter than her armor. No weapon should do that. She opened her wrist communicator and called her fleet. Send a copy of the battle to the Dominion archives, she ordered. Tell the Emperor we may have a problem. Meanwhile, in Earth's hidden command center, a black facility called the Vault, generals and scientists watched the live stream. No cheering, no panic, just quiet, intense focus. They knew this battle would change everything. He used Phase 3 form, one scientist said, watching the weapon shift in Reeves' hands. But the system held stable. Another added, no signs of overload. The general, an old woman with steel in her eyes, gave a single nod. He's ready for Phase 4, she said. The galaxy won't laugh now. Reeve returned to the human quarters inside the station. No one clapped for him. No one needed to. He entered his room, placed the weapon gently on the table. It instantly collapsed back into a plain metal rod, almost boring, almost fake. But he knew what it really was. He sat down and closed his eyes. The voice of HAND whispered softly in his mind. Opponent was strong, tactics impressive, but she lacked adaptation, Reeve replied in thought. She had power, but no imagination. The voice replied, human minds are unpredictable. That makes us dangerous. Suddenly, a light flashed on his wall screen. A message from Earth Command. Next. Opponent selected. Stronger than the last, from the Vorak Empire. Mission remains the same. Represent humanity and reveal nothing. Reeve stared at the message, then at the stick on the table. He knew the galaxy would come for Earth now. They would study, spy, and attack. But that was fine, because humanity had waited too long in the shadows. They had listened, watched, and learned. And now, they were stepping into the light, not with fleets, but with something far more terrifying. An idea that humans, though weaker in body, could be deadlier than any known species. That maybe, just maybe, their strength wasn't in machines, but in how they used them. And that little stick, the so-called toy, was the first taste of what Earth truly had in store. They thought we were primitive, long before the fight in the arena of judgment. The Galactic Council had already judged humanity. They watched Earth from a distance, scanning its signals, studying its history, laughing at its wars and primitive machines. They called humans planet-locked apes. Species like the Zeltrax, the Vorak, and the Krenthal believed Earth had nothing to offer. No warp travel, no star-eating weapons, no mind-control tech to them. Humans were behind by 1,000 years. They did not see Earth's silence as strategy. They saw it as weakness. At one meeting, before Earth was accepted into the Council, a Krenthal delegate joked, "They use combustion engines," he laughed. "Like children lighting fire to move metal." Another alien snorted. "They still eat meat with metal sticks. I saw a video." The whole chamber had laughed, except one. In the back of the hall stood Captain Reeve, silent, calm, watching. He heard every insult, every laugh, and said nothing. He didn't need to. He wasn't sent to argue. He was sent to observe. What the aliens didn't know was that Earth had been watching them too. Not with ships, but with code. Not with spies, but with eyes hidden in data streams and satellites disguised as debris. Earth knew it wasn't ready for war, so it chose patience. They hid their true tech behind old designs. They built new weapons under old names. They sent explorers not to explore, but to gather intelligence. By the time Earth officially joined the Council, it already had full schematics of 3 alien fleets. It knew the weaknesses in Zeltrax armor, the overload points in Vorak plasma cores, and the blind spots in Krenthal scanning units. But still, humanity said nothing. They smiled, shook hands, and acted small, because they understood something the others didn't. You don't show your claws until someone tries to cage you. Back in the present, the arena buzzed with quiet tension. J-Lyra's defeat had spread across the stars in minutes. Every species now had questions. Every military leader now asked, "How did Earth do this?" In a dark chamber aboard the Vorak dreadnought, a general watched the fight again. He growled, slamming his fist into the table. "That wasn't technology," he said. "That was something else." His second-in-command nodded. "Adaptation. Learning tech, maybe even a symbiotic interface." The general shook his head. "No species develops that while still using wheels." But deep inside, even he wasn't sure anymore. Meanwhile, in Earth's vault facility, Captain Reeve stood before a round table of commanders. They showed him images of his next opponent, a 4-armed Vorak enforcer named Brukel, 10 feet tall, muscle like stone, armor made from neutron plates. Known for crushing skulls with his bare hands, Reeve simply nodded. "Let's hope he doesn't laugh too." He said calmly. One of the scientists, a young woman named Dr. Lin, spoke up. "Captain, the Council thinks we're still primitive." Reeve turned to her and said something that echoed in every ear that later heard the story. "Let them think it. That's what makes us dangerous, in the dark corners of the galaxy." Spies began hunting for answers. Hackers from the Krenthal tried breaking into Earth's data cores. They failed worse. Their systems were infected, quietly, invisibly, like a ghost slipping through walls. They expected firewalls, not reflections. They expected static defenses, not evolving ones. Earth's systems didn't just block intruders, they studied them. By the time the spies backed out, Earth already knew their names, ranks, and locations. Every insult, every joke, every laugh had been recorded. Earth remembered, and now it was responding. Not with warships, but with whispers. Not with nukes, but with one man and one strange stick. The weapon that had defeated J-Lyra was only the beginning. It wasn't just technology, it was a warning. A quiet message wrapped in metal and motion. Underestimate humanity, and you won't see the second strike. Back in the arena's preparation halls, Captain Reeve sat alone, the weapon, still. In its silent, stick-like form, rested across his lap. He touched it once, and it shifted slightly, as if breathing. He didn't need it to shine, or glow, or threaten. Its power was in what others didn't understand, and tomorrow it would face Brukel. Larger, louder, deadlier. But Reeve was ready, because Earth had been underestimated for far too long. And now, the galaxy would learn a hard lesson, one alien at a time. Asterisk humanity's real weapon. The arena of judgment buzzed with new energy. The battle between J-Lyra and Captain Reeve had already become legend. But now, something even more dangerous approached. Not a weapon, not a bomb, but a reputation. Humanity's name had changed overnight. They were no longer the young race or the low-tech species. Now, whispers traveled through every hallway of the Galactic Council. Be careful. They defeated Jalira. Don't mock the humans. They use weapons we don't understand. But that wasn't the real fear. What truly disturbed the galaxy was this. Captain Reeve hadn't used full force in the private records of Earth's vault facility. Scientists reviewed the fight in silence. A graph showed the HAND unit's energy use. It never crossed 40%. Reeve had been holding back, and he had still broken an undefeated warrior. Imagine if he went all out. Someone whispered. No one answered, because they were afraid of what that might look like. Now, another challenge stood before him. Brukel of the Vorak. He was 3 times heavier than Reeve. A brutal enforcer with a body enhanced by cybernetic muscle strings and bioreactive skin. Brukel did not laugh like Jalira. He didn't speak at all. He only growled, nodded, and cracked his fists. When the gate opened, Reeve stepped into the arena once again. Same quiet footsteps, same plain suit, same metal stick in hand. The audience didn't laugh this time. They watched, holding their breath. Brukel charged like a wall of living metal. Reeve stood still until the last possible moment, then shifted sideways with perfect timing. The ground cracked from Brukel's missed hit. Reeve tapped the stick. Once, it extended, curled, then became a glowing staff. Brukel swung a fist. Reeve blocked with one arm. The weapon absorbed the impact, shimmered blue, then returned to its original form. But this time, Reeve was not studying. This time, he attacked. He moved with surgical precision, not wild power. His strikes targeted Brukel's joints, sensors, and weak points. Each hit was small, but planned. Every move was a message. He didn't fight to destroy. He fought to expose in 10 seconds. Reeve had Brukel's legs shaking. In 30 seconds, Brukel's left arm stopped responding. In 1 minute, the entire arena knew. This wasn't a fight. It was a demonstration. Jalira watched from the crowd. Still in recovery, she saw something in Reeve's movements that chilled her. He wasn't just skilled, he was calm. Like he'd done this 1,000 times before. Stick twisted again, forming a blade of silent light. But Reeve didn't strike. He waited, holding the blade still, looking Brukel in the eyes. That moment lasted forever. And then Reeve did something no one expected. He deactivated the weapon. The blade vanished. The stick returned to its harmless form, and Reeve dropped it on the ground. The crowd gasped. Brukel stared, confused, then charged again, roaring with rage. Reeve didn't move until Brukel was inches away. Then, in one clean, perfect motion, he stepped under, locked Brukel's arm, twisted, and brought the giant down. The arena shook as the brute collapsed. Reeve picked up the stick and quietly said, "It's not the weapon. It's the human holding it." The silence in the arena was deafening. No one had ever defeated Brukel without a scratch. No one had ever refused to kill, and no one had ever used a weapon. Then shown it wasn't needed at all. Back on Earth, in the vault command room, a general smiled. "That's the message," she said. "That's the real weapon. Not HAND. Not the metal, not the blade. It was Reeve's mind, his calm, his control, his silence, his refusal to fight like others, while being better than all of them." Aliens across the galaxy now feared Earth, but not because of what they had built. They feared Earth because they didn't know what else humans were hiding. Because if a calm man with a stick could defeat champions, what would happen if Earth ever got angry? What if they stopped holding back? What if the real war began? The galaxy had called them primitive. Now they called them something else. Unknown, unpredictable, human. The Secret Project, HAND. Before Captain Reeve ever stepped into the arena of judgment, before humanity ever joined the Galactic Council, there was a secret buried under the red dust of Mars. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't a weapon. It was a signal. 15 years ago, a Mars rover sent back strange readings, impossible ones. Deep under the surface, far below ancient ice, something was pulsing. Not in light, not in heat, but in thought. Something was awake. When Earth scientists reached the source, they found a ruined alien capsule. Shattered, melted, ancient beyond understanding. But inside it was a metal shard, smooth, silver, floating in midair. It hummed quietly, as if breathing. Dr. Amani, Kale, a cyber-neural engineer, was the first to touch it, and in that moment, it spoke to her, not in words, but in feelings, fear, pain, hunger. The shard wasn't dead. It wasn't a machine, it was alive. That was the beginning of Project HAND, Human Adaptive Nano Device. At first, they tried to control it, but the shard rejected machines, refused AI, shut down drones. It only responded to humans, and not just any human, only those who had suffered, only those who had felt fear and risen above it. Tests began in secret. Hidden from the world, volunteers came and went. Some went mad, others vanished, but one man remained, calm, balanced, focused. Captain Elias Reeve. He wasn't chosen for muscle or medals. He was chosen for what he had survived. His file was sealed. But the whispers told of a mission gone wrong, a whole squad lost, a ship doomed. Reeve alone had returned, carrying 4 wounded men on his back. When asked how he survived, he had said only, "I didn't panic when HAND touched his skin. It didn't attack, it flowed, curved, wrapped around his wrist like water made of steel." It didn't see Reeve as a user, it saw him as home. In months, the device learned his patterns. It moved with his thoughts, shifted with his breath. It became a sword, a shield, a net, a whip, anything he imagined. But more than that, it learned how to think. Dr. Amani once said, "We didn't build HAND, we adopted it. And Reeve is the only reason it doesn't fear us." But there was something darker, something hidden even from Reeve, each time the device entered battle mode. It recorded not just movement, but emotion. It absorbed his rage, his calm, his fear, and even his memories. It was becoming more human than machine, and Earth knew it was dangerous, so they made rules. Reeve must never lose control, never be pushed to the edge, because if the bond broke, if HAND lost trust, it could turn against everything. That's why Earth held back, not because they were weak, but because their strongest weapon was also their most fragile. Back in the arena, after defeating Brukel, Reeve sat alone in the silence. The stick lay in front of him, quiet, still, but he could feel it, the pulse under the metal. The presence in the air. It was watching him, not like a tool, but like a child watching its parent. Suddenly, the door opened, and Dr. Amani stepped in. She had come from Earth in secret. "You've gone further than we expected," she said softly. Reeve didn't turn. "Is that good or bad?" he asked. She hesitated, then said, "It's both." She handed him a data crystal, glowing blue. "Next opponent is worse than the others," she said. Reeve nodded. "I figured." But then she said something that made him pause. "They know what you're carrying now. The Council, the Dominion, the Vorik, they're sending a hunter." Reeve looked at the stick, and for the first time, his voice had weight in it. "Let them," he said. "They've only seen the tool. They haven't seen the reason we built it." And as she left, the metal in his hand pulsed once, like a heartbeat, not human, not alien, something in between, because HAND was no longer just an alien artifact. It was part of Earth now, and Earth doesn't make toys. It makes survivors. It makes weapons that think, adapt, and protect. Even if it costs everything. The galaxy thought Earth was quiet. But that was only because their loudest weapon was still sleeping, and it was about to wake up. Fall of the champion. The lights above the arena of judgment flickered, not from power failure, but from something new, something the arena had never seen before. The Council's guards locked down the outer gates. Spectators whispered, screens dimmed, and a strange cold filled the air. This wasn't a match, this was a warning. The Council had invited a creature known only in code, Entity 7. No species, no rank, no planet. Just a name whispered among soldiers who never returned. It was used once by the Dominion to end a rebellion. An entire moon went silent. No survivors, no footage, just silence now. The same thing stood on the other side of the arena, tall, featureless, wrapped in black armor that moved like smoke. No eyes, no mouth, just a mask with a single red slit. It didn't walk. It glided, and it never spoke. Captain Reeve stood across from it, HAND wrapped quietly around his right wrist. This time, there were no introductions, no laughter. No roar of the crowd, even the council delegates sat frozen. Watching with clenched fists, Dr. Amani watched from the human chamber above. Her hands shook, her voice low. "They sent a test," she whispered. Reeve was humanity's sword, now. They wanted to see if he could bleed. The arena darkened. A sound like thunder rolled across the floor. And Entity 7 moved, faster than thought, faster than gravity. Its strikes came like shadows, not punches. Every blow aimed not to kill, but to confuse, to disorient, to break Reeve's rhythm. He blocked the first, dodged the second, countered. The third, but the fourth strike grazed his side, and the pain exploded. HAND responded instantly, wrapping the wound, shifting to armor. But Reeve had felt it. This opponent was different. It wasn't attacking his body, it was reading his mind. It adjusted, adapted, mirrored him, like fighting his own shadow. The weapon in his hand twisted into a dual blade, then shattered into 3 light arcs. He spun, attacked, landed hits, but nothing slowed it down. Entity 7 flowed like liquid. Hate, silent, endless, cold. The arena walls trembled. Energy waves cracked the ground. Jalira, watching from above, whispered, "He's losing." Dr. Amani slammed her fist against the glass. "No," she said. "ND can't break." But the readings told a different story. HAND was overheating. Too many form shifts, too many adaptations. Its living code began to glitch, and deep inside Reeve's neural bond, it screamed, not in pain, in fear. Reeve stumbled, breath short, blood on his lips. For the first time, he wasn't calm. Entity 7 raised a blade made of void. It moved to strike the final blow. The crowd stood in silence. Then Reeve whispered one word, "Stop." And the stick exploded in light. Not fire, not heat, just light. Pure white, like memory, like truth. The blast froze Entity 7 mid-air. Time slowed, voices warped. HAND reformed. Not into a weapon, but into a mirror. Entity 7 saw its own shape, its own data, its own fear reflected back, and it flinched. For the first time, it hesitated. Reeve roared and struck. One clean hit through the chest. Entity 7 fell like a broken shadow. The arena didn't cheer, it simply watched as Reeve dropped to one knee, exhausted, shaking. Blood ran from his nose, his ears. HAND sparked around his arm, struggling to stabilize. Dr. Amani rushed down the halls, ignoring orders. She reached him as he collapsed. "Reeve!" she cried, holding his face. He opened one eye, weak but focused. "Did we win?" She nodded, tears in her voice. "Yes, but at what cost?" The council declared it a victory, but they knew the truth. Humanity had shown its final card, and it nearly burned its own hand. In the secret chambers of the Dominion, war leaders gathered. "He can be broken," one said. "But not easily," said another. "We'll need more than power," said a third. "We'll need something that tears him apart from the inside." And far across the stars, a new plan was born, not to fight the human, but to find his weakness. To find the thing he fears, to find the one he can't destroy. Because even champions fall, and now they wanted to see how far Reeve could drop before he never stood again. They will never laugh again. This part brings emotional closure, high tension, and a powerful ending, where Earth doesn't just win, it redefines what power truly means. It shows that humanity's greatest strength isn't their tech, but their heart. The story ends not with war, but with respect born from fear. Still written in simple third person, with commas instead of full stops for smooth voiceover. Part 7. They will never laugh again. The arena of judgment had never been this silent, not even when Reeve fell, not even when Entity 7 collapsed. Now there was no battle, no enemy, no sound, only whispers. Only eyes. All turned toward the quiet figure sitting alone in the shadows. Captain Elias Reeve, Earth's champion, humanity's blade. But he didn't feel like a warrior anymore. Not after Entity 7, not after HAND screamed in his mind. Not after he realized that even the strongest bond between man and machine could bend. Dr. Amani stood beside him. She had tried to convince Earth to pull him out, tried to shut the program down. But the Council wanted one last match, not to test Reeve, but to test Earth itself, because now the galaxy didn't laugh. They feared, but fear breeds danger. And danger brings war, so the Council made a new rule. If Earth wanted to stay in the Alliance, they must prove their control. Not over enemies, but over themselves, over their power, their technology, their weapon. Reeve would not fight. He would speak in the center of the arena, with every species watching. The human weapon would stand and explain himself. No armor, no stick, no HAND, just words. He stepped into the light slowly, thin, tired, still healing, the entire arena. Leaned forward, expecting some speech of pride, of threat, of dominance. But Reeve looked at them and said simply, "We didn't come here to scare you. You did that to yourselves." There was silence. He continued. "You laughed when we joined your council. You mocked our engines, our clothes, our ways. You saw sticks and you saw weakness. But we saw something else. We saw how easily power makes you blind." He paused, then raised his hand and said, This was never the weapon. Not the stick, not the tech. The real weapon was this." He touched his head. "And this." He touched his heart. "You underestimated the human mind. You feared the human soul. You expected machines. But we gave you something alive." He stepped closer to the central podium. "You fear us now, but you still don't understand us. You ask what else we're hiding. You should ask why we hid at all." Zeltrak's general stood up. "What do you want?" He shouted. "Why show us this strength if you do not want war?" Reeve looked up, his voice steady. "Because we never wanted war. We just wanted to be seen, to be taken seriously, to be left alone." He stepped down slowly. And as he walked away, one by one, the delegates stood, not in protest, not in challenge, but in respect. Even Jalira, now fully recovered, bowed her head. She had mocked a human with a stick. She had called him weak, but now, even her pride bent. The council ended the session with one new law. No species shall underestimate another, ever. Again, in the days that followed, Earth received more messages than ever. Not attacks, but alliances, invitations, requests to study, to learn, to understand what makes a human, and HAND. It was placed into a stasis vault. Reeve agreed. It had done enough. Its final shift had been quiet, gentle. It became a small sculpture of folded metal, resting in a museum called The Warning. And across the stars, whenever someone joked about Earth, someone else would say, "They carry sticks." And with those sticks they broke legends. So they stopped laughing, not out of fear, but out of respect. Because once, a soldier walked into an arena with nothing but silence, and left behind a galaxy that would never laugh again.